Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Turkey Hunter Podcast. You are listening to episode number 524, the South Carolina Super Slam with Bubba Ross. And I am your co-host and the guy who is starting to gather some belongings.
And I'm your co-host, also the guy gathering some belongings, but also the guy who had to say goodbye to a dear friend.
Uh-oh, that's not good.
Yeah, it was pretty sad. I had my horse that I've had for more of my life than I haven't. I've had him for 17 years now, and he is in the great pasture of the sky now.
Oh man, that stinks. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's tough. Horses and dogs for me. I don't know why those are like the two species that they're just tough it's tough when they die. But I mean, a horse, I'm 30 years old, had him for 17 years since I was 13. So he's been with me longer than not,
Yeah.
And it was my first horse. Got him as a 13-year-old for Christmas. It was the first ever horse my daughter rode on. We've shared many a good quail hunt together and romping all over the place. And he was my mode of transportation to see friends and girls and stuff through my teenage years before I turned 16.
Yeah.
So, but we have another horse that's sick right now, a little miniature horse. We're trying to get revived. We think she'll make it because she's younger. But we had some hay. Maybe this will help somebody out there if you have horses. But with all the rain we've had this year, followed by intense heat,
Mm-hmm.
it is just a breeding ground for bacteria.
Yeah.
And these horses have what's called botulism, and it's a bacteria. Basically, the hay, they said at least most likely cause, and it almost certainly is the hay. Old hay was in the pasture. The outside's dried out. It's fine, but the middle and lower parts are still wet from all that rain, and now it's dark and getting baked around the edges. So, I mean, you talk about perfect place for some bacteria to grow.
Yeah.
So if the horses get into that, it is bad news. It's a neurotoxin, and it kills them. I mean, if you don't get them immediately to a vet, it kills them. And so my horse being more aged, it took him out quick. Luckily, the mini horse is young and healthy, and we're able to get her down to Mississippi State trying to get her revived.
Yeah.
So, but it's bad news for sure. If you notice anything wrong with your horses out there this time of year, you got some old hay in the pasture, and key symptoms would be laying down a lot. They can't chew their food up. It starts affecting the mouth kind of first, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And so if, the food just kind of chews up and falls out of their mouth, or if they have this thick mucousy slime around their mouth, you better be getting them to a vet quick, and one that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a sad day, but he was a good one. I can't complain about getting to enjoy 17 years with him. So He was awesome. His name was Apache. I named him. He was a paint walking horse, and paint meaning he was white with the dark brown spots on him, and just beautiful. But he looked like, back then I was watching a lot of westerns with John Wayne and stuff, and the Indians always rode in on the paints.
Mm-hmm.
And so I named him after the Apaches. I thought that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well,
but
thanks for starting the show on a down note.
I mean, it was sad, and I hate that he's gone, but I got 17 years with him.
Yeah.
Can't complain. He definitely happily went on to glory to not have to deal with that neurotoxin anymore. It's bad, seriously bad news. But to go back to the positive note, we are packing for New Zealand.
Yes, indeed.
And it is, close. We're like a month away from going turkey hunting, which is literally hard to believe.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy just getting all of your stuff together to go on a trip, like putting your coat in a suitcase and your insulated underwear in a suitcase, thick socks in August in Alabama. It's just, it's crazy. But yeah, I think it's going to should be mid 50s when we get there, where we're going to be hunting. And man, the temp will be right, to be in the mid to upper 30s for lows.
Yeah, fresh breath of air. I'm so happy for a little temperature break.
Yeah.
I knew, I say I knew. If you had asked me, I would tell you when it was raining and all that stuff in the spring, which is poorly timed for Polta, obviously, but I knew when the spigot turned off, it was going to be sweltering hot.
Oh, yeah.
And that has definitely come to fruition.
Yes, indeed.
So, but yeah, I can't wait, man. It's going to be so nice to go back in time and go back to spring 2025.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be spring in New Zealand.
Yeah, it certainly will. And, this is not a perfect comparison, but if you think about what your weather is like January into February, that's what they're experiencing right now. So in one little town I've got on my weather app, that's a town pretty close to where we're going to be hunting, Friday and Saturday of next week, there are snow showers in the forecast.
That's so crazy. I mean, they're on the exact opposite weather spectrum as we are. So
pretty darn close to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost perfectly opposite.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. I actually found out today, I was talking to a cousin of mine and figured out she lives in Christchurch, New Zealand. So
no way.
I need to get her to give us some recommendations of other things to do.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. I can't wait. We can't wait to tell y'all all about it. It's going to be an epic trip, I think. And we probably will get Dink Watson, the head guide, back on before we go, just to kind of give us another briefing on what to expect and travel and those kind of things. And then we'll obviously bring y'all some live hunts and report back on whether New Zealand is truly worth all the hype we're hearing.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to get over there and it's going to be like a lot of the trips I've been on where, it's like, oh, should have been here yesterday. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's my luck. It was always better yesterday, and it's always better the day after I leave.
Yeah. They were hammering yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we shut down New Zealand turkeys, then we really do have a curse upon us. Because it sounds like they're everywhere.
This should be a little different experience, being able to go and see a flock of a couple hundred, 50 with 10 or 15 toms in it. That's going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to the experience, man. It's going to be awesome.
I know. I can't wait. But before that, we've got just an incredible feat on the show today from our guest.
Yeah.
Something that you've said before, actually, with State of Alabama. I've heard you say it. This would be harder than the Super Slam. And this guy did it in South Carolina, which I would say is, I don't know, it probably has less counties than Alabama, or, I know it has way less counties than Tennessee, but still an incredible feat to kill a wild turkey in every county of your state is an unbelievable feat. And especially a southeastern state and difficult state like South Carolina. So when I saw this book come available, I've ordered the book, I'm reading it now, and I was like, I got to get this guy on the show to talk about what he's done. And so we've got Bubba on the show to discuss his South Carolina slam.
All right. That sounds good. Well, let's jump in and go. Yeah, let's do it.
See you guys on the other side. Hey, everybody. We're excited to bring to you today. We got Bubba Ross from South Carolina. And I got his information from a book that I just ordered where I actually am in a Facebook group about turkey hunting literature, and someone posted in there, and I saw the accomplishment that Mr. Bubba Ross here has done, and I had to have the book, and I'm really impressed. I think what you've done is significantly more impressive than a U.S. Super Slam, in my opinion, and I can't wait to talk about it with you.
Well, that's mighty nice for you to say. It took me 45 years to which to achieve it, but I didn't start out to do anything like that. So
wow. Well, so tell everybody what your accomplishment was and why you decided to do it.
Well, Andy and Cameron, thank you for inviting me on for this podcast. And I'll be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. But,
us too.
I grew up in the low country of South Carolina and used to have a lot of big ducks down there. And my daddy, we hunted deer with dogs. We had big blocks of the plantations back there before they were subdivided. So we ran deer with dogs. I mean, nobody still hunted with a rifle. If you still hunted, you'd put cow peas out in the field and you shot them with a shotgun when they came out late in the afternoon. But, it's like the Lord took my ducks away from me and gave me turkeys, but we didn't have a a statewide huntable population of turkeys until 1998. And growing up in the country in South Carolina, we had plenty of ducks, mallards, blacks, pintails, and widgeon. Those were the kind of ducks we loved to shoot as kids, and we had plenty of them. But I got an itch for turkey hunting when I moved to Columbia, and there wasn't any duck hunting around here. It was just by happenstance I was on a dove shoot one day over the guy named Billy Amick over in Batesburg, Leesville, where they grow a lot of peaches, and I met a game warden named Mendel Boozer. He was cooking the chickens, had a big barbecue after the dove shoot. And I was talking to him, and we were talking. He said, "You ever been turkey hunting?" And I said, "No, we don't have any turkeys." And the only turkeys you'd ever see in low country is when maybe the deer dogs ran them a drove out. And this is during the fall and winter. I mean, deer season in low country South Carolina at that time came in on August the 15th and went out January the 1st. So it was a long, hot season. But you'd sit on the stand, 100, 150 yards apart, and let the dogs jump the deer, and you listen to the dogs, and hopefully the big buck would run by you, and you shoot it with buckshot. But sometimes they would drove the turkeys, and I mean, it was rare to ever see a turkey. And I told him, I said, I've never been turkey hunting, don't know anything about it. And he said, well, just call me in the spring and we'll go. And that's how it started. And I think it was probably about 1978 when I killed my first turkey in Saluda County, South Carolina.
Wow. And at that point in time, were you pretty well addicted?
I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have any call. I think I wore my Army BDUs.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have any face mask. I wore camouflage gloves, and I don't know that I had any face paint. I know I didn't put on any face paint, anything like that. And I had, my old hunting hat, which was a duck cap of duck canvas that I used to wear duck hunting. It was brown. Yeah, but Mr. Mendel, he was such a nice guy. He knew I didn't know anything about it, but that's how it started. I mean, and he took me and he told me he's in my book. There are three mentors: him and a guy named Johnny Lamorne, who's a highly decorated World War II Army veteran, and then what's his name? I can't think of it right now. He was the one who taught me how to call a turkey with the rhythm and cadence, and so I had three mentors that taught me how to turkey hunt, the feel, the calling and the camouflage and how to set up and stuff like that. I didn't know anything about it, but through those three mentors, I was able to learn something about turkey hunting. And several years later, I actually called in my first birds on my own with my granddad's old box call. And there's a picture of me in my book in about 1980, 81 with the second turkey I ever shot. My first turkey, I bushwhacked, and we had seen the turkey walking around the field, and Mr. Mendel let me out, and I snuck around the old logging road and got to the edge of the field. He said, Bubba, the turkey would probably walk around the field, and he did, and I waited to come into an open and shot him. I mean, if that wasn't any call or anything like that, that was a pure bushwhack, but that's the first turkey I ever killed, and that was in Saluda County.
Yeah, okay.
So when did you, I don't know if you mentioned this, but so the big accomplishment was that Mr. Bubba killed a wild turkey in every county in South Carolina, which there's what, 44?
46 counties in the state of South Carolina. So what South Carolina Department of Natural Resources has confirmed, I'm the only person in the 350 plus year history of the state of South Carolina has killed a wild turkey with absolutely no help from anyone calling, no help from anyone helping me set up. It was all done on my own.
Yeah, I mean, it may never be done again either. I mean, that's honestly unbelievable. And now would be quite the feat. Bag limits down to 2. I know it used to be 5. I think at one point may have helped out a little bit, but man, that's amazing. In a state like South Carolina, that blows my mind.
We're getting a lot more, population in the state, and the rural lands are shrinking just like all the southeastern states are. But there are a number of counties where the population is dramatic, and there's just not a lot of huntable land for turkeys anymore in several of the counties. And a couple of the counties still do not have a big population, especially the mountain counties, with the exception of Pickens, right outside of Clemson. I found, and all three of those mountain counties, or I killed on public land. Of the 46 counties I think there were 8 counties that I killed on public land, which I thought was a great accomplishment in itself, because I would never go during the weekend, and you can only hunt on Saturdays, so that only left one morning to hunt. And I killed 2 birds in the afternoon in my entire life. The last bird I killed was in the afternoon. It was kind of ironic. It was Dorchester County, and my home was not 12, where I grew up as a kid, was not 12 miles from the Dorchester County line across the Edisto River. I mean, I used to know everyone in the capital county seat of Dorchester County is St. George, and I used to know everyone. That town's probably half the size of Waldeboro, and I knew everyone as a kid growing up over there, playing sports and dating girls from over there. And my parents knew everybody over there. I never would have dreamed when I started. After 15 counties is when I guess I had the aha moment that I said, I wonder if anybody's ever done this before. And I called a guy named Charles Ruth, who is the big game biologist for the state of South Carolina for DNR. And I talked to Charles. He said, Bubba, I've never heard of anybody trying to do something like this. He said, no one's ever done it that we heard about. And he said, let me ask around. And I called him about a month later, and he said, no, nobody's ever done it that we know of. And so I said, at that time, it was probably about 2000. It's probably about 2010, maybe 8, something like that. I didn't keep great records back then. I said, I've killed about 15 counties. And it would get invited by friends. And back at that time, I knew a lot of people throughout the state. And I said, why not do it? And so that's when I really started focusing on trying to go to the counties that I'd never taken a bird in. It took me a lot longer than I ever dreamed about. And I initially said, I'm only going after mature gobblers. I'm not going to shoot a jake. And then about after 10 years of that, I said, this is unachievable. Just trying to shoot nothing but longbeards. And so I think in the end, I may have killed 6 or 7 jakes out of the 46. And I've killed probably 150 turkeys in my lifetime. But of the 46 counties, I think 6 or 7 of them may have been jakes.
Yeah, that's really impressive. And so you got some counties underneath your belt, and then you thought, hey, why not try this? Try to shoot one in every county. And that was
That's
it.
exactly
It wasn't
right.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know what precipitated or, got the burr under my saddle to do that. I just thought it's something to try. I mean, I had the freedom in my job that I could go an hour away, 100 hour or so, hour and a half, 2 hours, hopefully gobble on the roost, and be back to the office, and go to work. But when I got those turkeys within an hour and a half radius of the city, it got a lot harder, because going up to Oconee County or down to Jasper County, which is outside of Savannah, right across the Savannah River, I mean, that's a 2.5 hour ride.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to plan a little better to go do that. So, yeah, but it was fun. I mean, but like you say, I think anyone who tries to do it now with a 2-bird limit, it's going to be very difficult for somebody to replicate this.
I really think so. Plus, I mean, it's just fact of the matter, access is a lot harder now too. I mean, everybody's turkey hunting, and it's hard to find a place to hunt a lot of times in your own county, much less go find one across the other end of the state.
But Cameron, I'm surprised at the number of people, and understand, and I've mentioned this in the book, that I cold called on people in a number of counties, knowing no one in Marlboro County, knowing no one in Dorchester County that had turkey land that may have had turkeys on it. I mean, I went to Marlboro County from Gallivant's Ferry, which was a 45-minute ride instead of a 2 hour and 15-minute ride from Columbia. Stayed at a friend of mine's house down there, and he's in the book a lot. And he was a big supporter of mine, a guy named Hal Cottingham. And I just went, my daughter's veterinarian up in Greenville, and I said, vets know everybody in the county, especially a small town like that, where Bennettsville is the capital, the county seat. And so I went to the local vet over there, a guy named Terry Eads, and waited for him to open the office and told him what I was doing. And everybody said, tell me again what you're trying to do. And I told him, he said, I've never heard of that. I said, it's never been done before. And they laughed. And without exception, he said, let me make some calls and, let me see what I can do. I mean, within 30, 45 minutes, a retired undercover game warden up there called me. He said, Bubba, I got you a place to hunt. I was on Dorchester County, the last one. I'd gone down there probably a month before the season, and I'd hunted a track down there with a girl who was in graduate school with me, had a farm down there, a lot of open fields. And I think I saw a gobbler track one time down there, but it wasn't many birds. But I was just riding around just looking for turkey land. I didn't have that OwnX. I think you guys now have, it tells you the property owner, the meets and bounds description, and I mean, that's a great tool to have. But I was just riding down Wire Road, which runs parallel to the Eddystone River, and there was a tract out there turning under old cotton field. And I was probably 2 miles from the Orangeburg County line, the Banbury County line right there. And I said, Bubba, you came down here to find a property to go hunt turkeys in a couple of weeks. I said, this looks like great turkey habitat. I see a swamp over there. I see open fields. The Eddystone River's over there. And I grew up there fishing for redbreast on the Eddystone River as a kid. I said, that's perfect habitat over there. Why not go see if that farmer will let you do it? So I turned around and went back to where the gentleman was plowing, and I pulled him behind his desk, and he'd see me in his mirrors and pulled up and stopped in the field. And it was a young boy, probably 15 or 16 years old, named Kevin McElhaney. And I told him what I was doing. He said, well, I don't turkey hunt. I said, my brother does, my daddy does. But he said, you need to talk to my granddad. And I said, well, who is he? And he told me his name. And I said, where does he live? And he said, he lives in Branchville, and which was on my way home. I mean, it was probably 3 minutes out of my way to go by his house. And so I got his address where he lived and drove right up there. And when you pull up to every farm, every farmer's out there working on his equipment. And an older guy and a younger guy, probably 50-some years old, out there working on a tractor. And I pulled up there and asked him, I said, I'm looking for Mr. Sublet McElhaney. And he said, well, you found him. And I told him what I was going to do. He laughed. He said, where are you from? I said, Miss McElhaney was born and reared in Waldoboro. He said, I know where that is. And we started to say, you know who? And I said, yeah, I know them. And he said, all right, tell me again what you're trying to do. And he laughed. And he said, well, when we were years ago and the state was introducing turkeys, he said, they asked me to put some on my property in Orangeburg County, which we did. And he turned to his son, who's named Sublet McElhaney, Telbus McElhaney, which is Sublet spelled backwards. And I laughed and I said, Telbus, how do you spell that? He said, Bubba, it's Sublet spelled backwards. And I started laughing. We all laughed. And Mr. McElhaney turned to Telbus and he said, I don't have a problem with it. And Telbus said, well, his other son, I forget his other son's name. He said, we got a lot of property in Orangeburg County. Until Bubba kills his turkey over there in Dorchester County, he can have at it. So they said, Bubba, until you kill your turkey in Dorchester County, nobody will set foot on our property over there until you pull your trigger. And I mean, wow. That's how friendly the people are down in Low Country, South Carolina. Just unannounced, in the state, not just in the Low Country, but in the state of South Carolina. I mean, they just had another guy in Lancaster. I met on a turkey hunt in Marion County. Nice guy. He is the only person if there are 46 counties and I killed turkeys on 8 public lands, there were 38 private individuals. Of the 38 private individuals, only this one man told me not to use his real name in the book, which I thought was amazing. I just thought, but most people want to be anonymous, but he was the only one. And we were turkey hunting and we were talking. And he said, Bubba, I've got some land up in Lancaster County. He said, I turkey hunt it. He said, I lease out the deer rights, but he said, nobody but my family hunts turkeys on it. And I called in a turkey for him that morning. And he ended up, I think 3 gobblers came in, if I think about it. And I didn't carry a gun. I was just taking him as a guest for a friend of mine. He said, well, since you called in my turkey, I guess you want rights to go to my land up in Lancaster County. I said, no, Bill, I wasn't asking for that. He said, well, I brought him out. He said, I will tell you where the key is. And he said, I will tell everyone that nobody is to go on that property until you tell me you've killed your Lancaster County bird up there. And I killed it the second morning I was there, and he was just the nicest guy in the world. I can't believe how nice people were to offer me their property in pursuit of this crush. I'm just floored by it, the hospitality of it.
Yeah, that truly is amazing because just like Cameron said, it seems like everybody I talk to these days turkey hunts. If they hunt anything, they turkey hunt. And so I know how I am as a turkey hunter, and I know how all my friends are as turkey hunters. We're all protective of our turkeys. So
I mean, people go crazy. I mean, they, you can shoot the squirrels, rabbits, or deer, or whatever, but leave my turkeys alone. You're exactly right. I mean, if somebody sees a turkey, they don't even want to tell their wife about it
That's right.
That's it.
You want to protect that resource and with the location and everything else. But I couldn't believe how friendly and nice people were to me in trying to do this. And I say that several times. I've all been surprised at the hospitality, whatever that word would be, they extended to me in pursuing this thing.
Yeah.
But I said, I'll never come back. I promised all of them a book. And with the exception of two people, that one of them is over in Florence, and he was a neighbor of mine here in Columbia for years, and he grew up on a farm outside of Florence in a town called Latta. And I got to get him the book, and a guy that killed my Barnwell County bird on. Those are the only two people I hadn't given the book to, but I'll run into both of them over the next dove season, I guess, when I go down dove shooting with them.
Nice.
That's
Where
awesome.
Tell me about the last one, your last county. How'd that hunt go, and how'd that feel when you squeezed it off?
It was somewhat sad and anticlimactic. I went down, I think the season opened, and that was 2024. I'd gone down to St. George and stayed at the Days Inn right off of I-95 and U.S. Highway 176 at the Days Inn. And I think I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, the season opened on Friday, and I went down Wednesday. And a guy with the Federal Land Bank who worked for the crop insurance, he told me that he'd gone over the Harleyville, Ridgeville area of Dorchester County, met with some farmers doing some crop loss insurance stuff for them. And he had mentioned to me, I actually killed my Allendale County bird, which is also in low country, also joins the fronts of Savannah River, on his father-in-law's property. And he had mentioned to one of the guys who had grown up in Harleyville, lived in Somerville now, and he said, he owns some land. He said, yeah, Bubba's welcome to come down and see if I got any turkeys. He said, we see him out in the fields, and he's welcome to do that. And so I went down there and called him probably 2 weeks before the season, met him at his farmhouse down there, and we rode around, saw some hen tracks, saw some gobbler tracks, and I said, this would be a great place to come. Well, I went into left town about, midday. It's probably an hour and a half ride down to St. George. Checked in the motel, unloaded him, and rode over to his house. Yeah, he knew I was coming, so met him there at the farm. They were spreading manure in all the fields. And I told him, I said, I think I may back out of here for a couple of days and just let this settle down. And so I went over to Mr. McElhaney's property and just rode it. I'd seen some fresh gobbler tracks in that plowed up cotton field that I'd seen his grandson plowing in, a couple of weeks earlier. But I backed up, and they owned some property on the Eddystone Riverside on the south side of Wire Road. So I rode down that little 2-lane road, and there was a residential power line going down through the middle of the woods, and it had a nice sandy area, a real clear, just perfect place that you to see a gobbler strut at 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's isolated. You can't see it from the road. It's just a perfect place for a gobbler to strut. And I saw some hen tracks, but didn't see any strut marks. So the next morning I said, I'm not going over to, I forget his name now, to Harleyville. I'm going to go over to Mr. McElhaney's. And I pulled up short of the power line and just walked down there, and a bird was gobbling on the adjoining property owner, and I said probably several hundred yards. I walked to the edge and I could see the boundary markers. And so I knew that it was on the other property line. And I blew a crow call before I left, and a bird gobbled behind me, probably 100 yards on Mr. McElhaney's property. I said, this is absolutely perfect. I said, this is perfect. So I went back to the motel, decided, where I was going. That was Thursday morning. Went, ride around a couple of places. I went on the other side of the swamp where I'd seen Kevin plow. Kevin McElhaney was the grandson plowing. And I went over there, and there were two birds out in the field with several hens strutting, and I said, this looks good also. But since I heard a bird 100 yards away from that power line, I said, this is where I'm going to come. Well, it's the opening morning, I could not sleep that night. I think I left the motel at 3 o'clock, and gobbling would probably start about 6:30. I was sitting in the power line at 3:30, right by a power pole. The right-of-way is probably 50 feet wide. I mean, it's a two-strand, one-pole, two-strand wire going through the woods. And I sat, and mosquitoes, fortunately, I had one of those thermocells, and I smoked a cigar, and so it kept the mosquitoes off. Finally, birds started chirping, the cardinals started chirping, and then I heard a couple of owls, and heard the bird on the adjoining property start gobbling. I walked to the west side of the property thinking I'd maybe hopefully called. He gobbled right back. Called. He gobbled right back. I said, well, he's not going to come. And I could tell he was moving away from me. Not the first thing that happened that morning. So I went back out, got my truck, went on the back side of the swamp. Sure enough, there were those two gobblers out there in the field again. And I mentioned to Telvis, I called him, and I said, Telvis, I see some birds on the other side of the swamp there. He said, yeah, Bubba, my aunt lives in that house right there. He said, park in the cotton field where you saw Kevin plowing and cross, there's a little branch called Brock's Branch. And I went, he said, we used to have a little logging road through there. We'd drive the tractors between it. It's kind of washed out. But he said, you shouldn't have any trouble walking across Brock's Branch. It's a little stream now. He said, come from that side. And so I said, that'll be fine. Yeah, well, but I was driving out that morning, probably 2 miles down the road, headed back to the motel. I saw a flock of turkeys, probably must have been 15 birds with two gobblers in it. I said, boy, you know, it was a old cotton field also. And I came back to a town called Ridgeville. I called my wife. I said, Julie, I said, it's lunchtime. I hadn't had any luck. And I said, I think I'm coming home. I said, the wind's picked up. It's getting ready to rain. And I said, two things. I don't like to hunt in the wind. I don't like to hunt in the rain. I don't like to hunt in the afternoon. Three things. She said, well, just stay down and make some memories. Try something different. So I said, okay. So I went to St. George, stayed renewed for another night at Days Inn, went to some little old convenience store and got me a piece of fried chicken and a Snicker bar and a Pepsi, and rode back to where I talked to my wife. And I called Telvis and I told him, I said, I hadn't had any luck. I said, I think I'm going to try tomorrow morning, where I'd seen the birds over by your aunt's. He said, that's fine, but just come through Box Branch where my aunt won't get scared seeing a truck there in the middle of the night coming through at dark. I said, not a problem. Yeah. He said, Bubba, if you don't have any luck there, I own another piece of property right down the road from where you were. And he said, I've seen turkeys in it. And I said, Telvis, wait just a minute. I'll call you back. I want to make sure where are you telling me. So I go back to where Box Branch crosses Wire Road. I said, Telvis, I'm at the cemetery where you mentioned. He said, just go like you're going towards Grover, which is a small little community right at 15 and Wire Road. And he said, when you cross Box Branch, he said, the field on your left is probably 50 or 60 acres. And all those woods, several hundred acres in there in that field, he said, I own also. And that's where I saw that flock of turkeys later on in the morning. I said, you got to be kidding me. So I had permission to hunt that. So I sat there and ate my lunch and pulled out the back. There was kind of a peninsula of land going out between the fields. There was a bigger field in the back, a little small, strip, probably 200 yards wide and probably a half mile long, separated by pine, probably 25, 30-year-old pines in the backfield. And so I pulled through, and I could see the backfield. It was a pretty field, and I don't like to hunt fields. I'm a woods guy. But in the afternoon, I said, I'll sit here and try it. Backed the truck up. No, I pulled the truck up there. Don't like decoys, but I put a Jake and a hen decoy in the field, and there was a little triangular spit of land right where the depression was, and so I decided to sit in it, and there was a mound of dirt right there and some vines, and so I could be well hidden. And once I got the decoys out, I backed out back truck and could walk back to where I left my shotgun and everything. And I carried a camouflage umbrella. I thought I was going to waste time. I really did. I said, this is like watching grass grow. I just cannot stand hunting in the afternoon like that. That's just no fun to me. Well, I'm sitting there, and I rarely carry binoculars. But since I was going to hunt this field afternoon, I brought a pair of binoculars. So I brought those with me, and I scanned the field before I got in my little blind. Didn't see anything. And I'm sitting there, and it starts raining. I put up my umbrella. I'm sitting under the umbrella. And I'm saying, Bubba, why don't you go back to the motel? I mean, it stopped raining. For whatever reason, there's a big pine tree on my right. And about 5 minutes before that, I yelped, and I never yelped loud. I'm the quietest turkey caller you've ever heard. If you probably sitting 50 yards from me, you don't even hear me call. And I yelped. And for some reason, I just leaned up, probably to stretch, and I look about 75, 80 yards to my right, and there's a goblin full strut, a nice bird. And I look, and I said, he's not in full strut in my two decoys. And so I look a little further, and there's two hens with him. And so I with my little box call and slate, and he turns and looks, and and he starts walking to me. I said, I can't believe this. Then he turns right around. The hens go out into the field, and he follows them out into this field.
Mm-hmm.
And Telbus told me there's a ditch out there. Don't drive across because you'll hit a ditch, irrigation ditch. So, you don't be surprised if he said it's dry, but you'll bottom out your truck if you try to cross it. Well, I actually took a picture and sent it to my wife and children. I said, the hens are taking him off. I said, I'm ready to go back to the motel. They get out in the middle of the field. They're 200 yards away from me, and they take a left. And so they're walking from right to left. Now they're straight in front of me, and I yelped real loud. And all of a sudden, the hens evidently went out of the ditch because I lost sight of them. All of a sudden, he goes straight up, goes into full strut, runs about 50 yards towards me, and I yelp again. He comes out of strut, he runs another 50 yards and starts strutting. Yelp, 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 yelp. He runs into my two decoys, knocks the jakes on the right, the hens on the left, me facing them. He knocks the jake on the left, comes in full strut, hits the jake on the right side, knocks him off. And with that, when he knocked it off, I said, yo, his head went up and I shot. And he fell right there, and it was over.
Nice.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That was, I call it the final tale.
Does that make you hunt in the afternoon more now, or you still don't like it?
Still don't like it. But I've always heard, I've always heard if you get one to gobble in the afternoon, you have a high probability of getting the bird. But that may be true. I just like the morning, and that bird in Williamsburg County are the only two birds I've ever shot in the afternoon.
Wow.
How about
And
that?
that was 12:15, that Williamsburg County bird. But that was it. Up until that time, Greenville, I shot probably a quarter 11, a quarter 12. I can't remember exactly which time it was, but that had been the latest bird I'd ever shot.
Mm.
I just enjoyed the nice cooler mornings. Afternoon hunting. I'm a run and gun guy. I like to hear them gobble, and I like to go to them. That's what I like. I like to hunt the woods.
Yeah, I totally get that.
I don't think many people would argue against, if you love turkey hunting, there's kind of nothing like that initial wake up period and action that the mornings can bring. I mean, I like afternoons too, but there's just something about being there at daylight too. Nothing can compare.
I've heard people say that they've had a bird gobble 200 times in the afternoon come in. I've just never had that because I guess I've never done it in the afternoon. They just, in the South, that's what y'all get it too. In late April, it's hot in the afternoons.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I just don't like the afternoon hunt. That's just my personal preference. I enjoy the mornings waking up. I enjoy seeing the whippoorwills, the chuck-will-willas, in the road. And I love to hear the owls and hear the cardinals and the doves and the crows. I mean, I just love to listen to the woods wake up. And I think that's as much fun as actually shooting a turkey. Anybody can kill a turkey at 30 yards with a shotgun. I mean, that's not the hard part. I mean, the hard part is getting in the hard part is getting within that 30 yards. And that's the fun part. And I love when they shut up. And most people say, he's going away. To me, my logic is I always think he's coming in, and that's when I go on high alert because I think he's coming in silent, and I want to see him before he sees me, and that's the fun part. I love it when you work the bird, he's coming, and all of a sudden he shuts up. And I think patience, and I say that in the book a number of times. I think patience is almost one of the most critical virtues a turkey hunter can have. I'm convinced that, and I think and I'm not one to call much. But I honestly think somebody with a bad call, if they have the cadence and the rhythm, that's what I refer to it, is I think that's more important than being a good caller with a great call or whatever it may be. If the cadence, because I've heard some actual hens actually saw them that have the worst sound. You would think is the worst turkey hunt in the world the way they sounded. But I was watching the hen when she was making the sound, so I know it was a hen. Just like ducks. I've heard mallard hens sound the worst duck call in the world, but it was a mallard hen. I could see why she was doing it. So everyone's voice is different. I think, a lot of game is different like that in the vocalizations. But
no doubt. No doubt.
Emery Hester was the guy. I couldn't think of his name earlier. He was the one who hunted with a guy named Harry Hampton, was probably one of the first conservationist turkey hunters in South Carolina. But Emery, he played for a clarinet in one of the big band eras, and he taught me about the music sound of a turkey hen. Just a yelp, yelp, yelp. They aren't fast. I mean, you hear some people go yelp, 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 yelp. They don't do that. And my grandchildren try to do that. I said, slow it down. I mean, a hen's not in a hurry. She's got all day, and so just slow it down.
Yeah. I think that's first of all, Cameron said it. It's quite the feat that what you did, and I don't know how familiar you are with the whole super slam craze that's going on right now around the country among turkey hunters, but just trying to kill a turkey in every state that has turkeys. And on the surface, that sounds like it'd be quite an accomplishment, and it is. I'm not downplaying it at all, but I have said that I really don't have any doubt. I live in Alabama, but I really don't have any doubt that it would be much harder to kill a turkey in every county in the state of Alabama than it would be to kill a turkey in every state that has turkeys. And on the surface, it doesn't sound like it because, well, so you're telling me that killing a turkey in Alabama is going to be more difficult than going to kill one in Hawaii? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's going to take you a lot longer to get to Hawaii, but I think you can kill your turkey a lot quicker and probably get back home before you can kill one in certain counties in Alabama. So
I don't know. I've never, I've talked to a number of people through the years that have tried to do that, and have been a couple of them been successful in getting one in all 48. I guess they transported wild turkeys out to Hawaii because I don't think they were originally indigenous to that out there.
Right.
But outside of Alaska, I think all the lower 48 do have a huntable population now. I don't know about North Dakota. I killed a Miriam out in Chadron, Nebraska one time, and that's right below South Dakota. So I assume if it's that close, they've got Miriams in North Dakota. I don't know that. I've just never had any. I would like to kill a Gould's turkey one time. I think that may be the prettiest turkey. I don't care about the isolated because I understand they don't gobble and they live in the woods. I mean, trees almost. So it's like a peacock. But I think I'd like to take a Gould's one time. I'd like to see one of those.
You would. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're prettier than a Merriam's if there is such a thing. And if that's a trip you want to go on, I've got a couple of outfitters that I could point you to that would treat you right, and you would have a blast. You would.
But do they let you do it on your own?
They can.
You said the one you used this year, Andy, was good at that.
Yeah. The thing is, you just have to you have to ask the right questions before you go and set expectations with the outfitter.
Accordingly.
Yeah. And so
I don't want to sit around out in Nebraska. They hunt over feed. I mean, where the feed trough. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, I'm not sitting by where they got the food in the feeders. He said, that's not my idea of hunting. That's just killing. But he said, Bubba, stay between this road and this road. You can go for 5 miles in any direction. That's fine. And if I can't call one in, that's fine. I mean, I'm not good enough to get one, and I'm totally happy with that.
Yeah. It's different everywhere you go, and that's all I can say to you. If you have a conversation with an outfitter and say, "Look, I don't want you calling a turkey for me. I don't want to go sit in a blind. I don't want to do this or do that. I want to kill one this way. Is that something you can work with me on?" And if it's not, move on and find another outfitter. If it is, then, let's go and let's make it happen. But I don't want to have to remind you when I get there of the conversation that we're having right now.
I don't want a selective memory. That's why I like things in writing. That's what I call it. And I would send him an email. Say, Bubba, I'll put you out. And, you're on your own. You got a compass, or you think you know how to get around. Have at it. Or we'll give you some, homing device where you can get back. But I think I could get around all right out there. I'm not sure I can go mountain goat hunting, but I think I can go look for turkey still.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to see one. I don't have to kill him. I'd like to see one, just get him. But since I pulled the trigger on that one in opening afternoon in 24, I have not pulled the trigger in South Carolina since. Taking my grandchildren, taking some other people, and I didn't even take a gun. And I killed a bird up in North Carolina on Pisgah National Forest, which is right outside of Brevard in Hendersonville, Asheville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And this past spring, a retired North Carolina game warden, he and I met up there, I guess, in 24 when I killed a bird up there. I called him, and he and I met up there, and I called in a bird for him this past spring. And he said, Bubba, come on up here. And I said, no, I'll sit right back here on the back side. There's no, you get on this side, and I'll call back here, and he won't see me. And I said, I'll be able to see right above this knoll, and I can see everything. You get your gun. And he ended up getting a nice bird, and he was greatly appreciative of it.
Yeah, that's outstanding.
Did you have any there in South Carolina that just were real easy?
Give me a second to think.
I'm just wondering if those exist in South Carolina, because my experience there says otherwise.
Not for me personally, but probably my oldest son is 46. My middle child is 43, and my daughter, the baby, is 40. Probably 7 years ago, my son and a couple other guys owned several thousand acres right outside of Columbia on the Wateree River towards Camden. And I'd taken him down. I'd ridden with him and ridden down to the river. There was a little river cabin down there, and got out right at first light. Crow called. The bird was gobbling down the road. My son Ben, he said, Dad, I'll kill this bird within 10 minutes. He said, you go down this way. Where he and my younger son had gone a couple of weeks early and killed the bird. And I said, no, I'm going to sit right here. So I leaned across the hood of the truck, and he went down the road, logging road towards the gobbling bird. Saw him sit down by the tree. And from the time he left me to the time he pulled the trigger was 7 minutes. And I leaned across the hood of the truck. I could see I didn't see him when he flew down the road, but I could see him from probably 100 yards from my son as he walked down the road towards my son. And it was 7 minutes. From the time that he left me to the time he shot, it was 7 minutes. Now, that's the quickest I know of. I've never had them just fly down on my lap. No, I can't say that I don't think I've ever had a real quick hunt, which is fine. I mean, I'm not in a hurry, most of the time. But the most aggravating thing is the bird out in a clear cut. And I say this in the book. If it's a recent clear cut, Cameron, if you read the book, you hadn't read all the book yet. Orangeburg, Canada.
I'm in the early stages, so I'm a few chapters in, but I'm not deep in it yet. I just got it, but I was like, I got to get this guy on the show.
I hope you're enjoying it.
I am. I really am so far.
I really enjoyed writing it. It took me 3 years in which to write it. My wife of 3 years, she was my primary editor, and she read the book, the rough drafts as much as I did. And I'm terrible with English, but she's a very bright lady, so she was a big help. It was an effort to write this thing. It really was. But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. But getting back to the clear cut, Orangeburg, Canada, a good friend of mine who just recently died was a pediodontist here in town. He had 300 acres over in Orangeburg, Canada, near the town of Neces, South Carolina. And birds would get out in that clear cut. And I could call the hens. They'd come right by me. But the gobblers would not follow the hens. And they say the gobblers always follow the hens. Well, that's not always the case, because I can attest to you that gobbler sometimes, as long as one hen is staying out there in that clear cut, they'll stay right there with her. In Lee County, they were across the old cornfield. They were roosted on the other man's property, and they were gobbling on the edge. And I said, I'm going to go with the edge, and but it was getting daylight, and I said, they're going to bust me if I walk across this field. And there was no wood line to skirt. And so I called one hen. The other two hens stayed out there, and he stayed about 75 yards. The two hens came to right within 5 yards of me, then went back to him, and they went off towards my pickup truck. But I ended up killing the bird later that morning. So here again, don't give up, and patience, and just keep at it. And so I waited for them to go on out the way and went to the farmer's other property and found two birds over there gobbling the heads off, and got one of those birds, which tickled me to death.
If you ran into someone who wanted to try to accomplish the same goal of killing a bird in every county in their state, whether it was South Carolina or Tennessee or New York, what kind of advice would you give them, and how would you work to set expectations with them?
I'd first try to identify the counties close by. I mean, get the counties that you can easily commute. If you're still working, I mean, you retire, you have a lot more free time in which to venture out. But if you're a turkey hunter, you know what good turkey habitat looks like. And if you can find who owns it, and I spent a many hour knocking on doors. Farmer Jones, no, I don't own that, but the farmer down the road owns that. And catching that farmer at home, anybody at the house, kind of like, I go to Canada every year duck hunting for about 7 to 10 days up there, and you can find ducks up in Saskatchewan, but finding the farmer who owns the property that they, to get permission, because I'm going to get permission before I set foot on a man's property.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing. Same thing. I mean, with this Own X that my oldest son gave me, that is a revelation in ownership. But if you identify and if you show the person you respect the land and you're good, you treat them well and courteous to them. Say I'm going to pull the trigger one time and you'll never see me again. And that's the truth of it. I mean, you move on. And my children used to get mad with me, my oldest son especially. He said, "Daddy, you never go with me and your grandsons anymore." I said, "Ben, I only have so many mornings in my life in turkey season anymore." I said, "I don't need to go back to counties where I've killed a bird. If I'm trying to do this, and I hope you understand, I can't go to where I've killed a bird. I need to go somewhere else." And they understood eventually. And so, but I'd say just get out and learn the property and make connections. Because I think if one farmer, if he allows you permission, generally farmers know other farmers, not only next door, but, if they're cotton ginning cotton or they, row croppers, they know the cotton grower down the road or the soybean grower or whatever it may be. I mean, peanuts are big in South Carolina now, and I'm sure the local peanut people down there know every peanut grower out there. And I would source those kind of people. The game wardens, Mendel was nice and introduced me how to turkey hunt. The undercover game warden, Ricky Covington, over in Marlboro County, was great. But game wardens are a good source, but you can't expect too much from them because they got to be totally objective. They can't, offer any, assistance to you that they wouldn't offer to the other 6 million people in South Carolina. So, I mean, they're a good source, but I'm not sure they'd be that helpful for you. And I may be totally wrong. But I'd say get out and ride the country and just identify and knock on doors. And if that's in true your goal, I think people will appreciate it. And offer them, the birds or, offer them a book if you're going to write a book about it. And that's what I did. And I'm happy to say most of the people that I've given the book to, it's kind of funny, but it's exactly what I thought. They would read the chapter that was applicable to them. And I started writing in alphabetical order, and I quickly by county name in alphabetical order. But I didn't harvest the birds in alphabetical order. I mean, Abbeville County may have been county number 40 instead of number 1. So I said this is too confusing. So I started writing the book by the county of the harvest date, and it worked out much better that way. But people would read the county where I killed the bird on their property. Every one of them told me I started with, my county, which I figured they would. And they really appreciated it. But I think they were surprised. I really think most of them were surprised. And a couple of guys who went to undergraduate school with me, one of them killed my Abbeville County bird. And he said, he knows my wife since we were in school yet. He said, my wife's name's Julie, said, "Julie wrote this book. I know you didn't have enough sense to write the book like this." And I said, "Julie did help me a lot." But he knows me well. So, but no, it's been fun. It really has. And I'm not out to make money off selling a book. Back in May, when I talked to Charles Roof, who's the big game biologist, was a deer and turkey in South Carolina, when I told him that I was going to present the book to him, the first hardback, to them, appreciation for all of what they do, not only for wildlife in the state, but also for the citizens of South Carolina. He called me back about 2 weeks later. He said, "Bubba, let me ask you something." I said, "Sure." He said, the DNR board meeting, we got a new director, Dr. Bill Mulligan. He said this is his first board meeting. He said, be a full board at new offices. He said, "What would you like to present your book to the department, the agency?" He calls it agency, at the board meeting. And I said, Charles, that would be great. I said, I'm not a speaker. He said, well, they'll give you 5 minutes. And I said, well, I don't need anything to talk about for 5 minutes. So I'd be a lot shorter than that. So I went and presented the book. And when I got through, they gave me a standing ovation. And I got a nice letter from him. He said, for your accomplishment and thank you for your book for DNR. But in the book, if you read it, Cameron, you'll see that a portion of the proceeds from each book sold will be donated to South Carolina Department of Natural Resources for turkey habitat restoration and research and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to make money on it. I'm trying to maximize profitability to give back to the state. I'm not going to do it on Amazon because Amazon takes too big a chunk of it. So if I sell 1,000 books or 500, whatever I sell will DNR will get down the road.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. And do you want to tell everybody the best way to get a copy of your book while we're on the topic?
The easiest way, my wife was paranoid, so you won't see my mailing address. You won't see my phone number. If you go to scbeardedtales.com.
scbeardedtales.com.
Yep.
Okay.
If you look in the book, it says scbeardedtales at gmail.com. Excuse me, at gmail.com. I forgot the Gmail. scbeardedtales at gmail.com.
Yeah. So email you there?
Yes. They can Venmo me at scbeardedtales.
Yeah. And tales is like telling a story, TALES, not turkey tail.
That is correct.
Yeah. So SC, South Carolina, Bearded Tales at gmail.com or on Venmo. That's how I ordered on Venmo. I just sent my money and my address, and I had the book in like 3 days, I think. It was quick.
Good. And I hope you enjoy it. I really do. But it's scbeardedtales at gmail.com. It's not SC South Carolina. It's scbeardedtales at gmail.
And the price of each, if somebody wants to Venmo you?
With shipping and handling, the hardback is $55. The soft cover is $35.
And it's a big book. I will tell people that. It's going to be a good long read because you got a chapter per county in there, right?
That's correct. The editor, outside my wife, was a guy who was a former executive, now retired, who was executive director of the South Carolina Outdoor Writers Association. Never knew there was such a thing. But a friend of a friend put me in touch with me. He lives in Missoula, Montana. He was the one who was my primary editor. And he said, Bubba, this is going to be a big book for turkeys. And I said, well, it is what it is. But I wish that you'll find the earlier chapters are not as long as the latter chapters. And I wish that I could have taken more pictures earlier on, but we didn't have cell phones. So I didn't start out to do this. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I wish I'd have taken pictures along, but I had no idea this was what I was going to end up trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Bubba, you're an amazing storyteller, and obviously you're a dang good turkey hunter, because I don't think that's any small accomplishment what you've done. And so
amazing.
Congratulations to you. I think that's just incredible. And
well, thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. And I really enjoy doing this. I really have. My wife doesn't care about turkey hunting. She's read enough. She don't want to hear me talk about it. She's had enough.
Mine too.
Mine loves to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm sure she does.
Yeah. But no, after reading the book probably 5 times, I mean, she knows it backwards, forwards as well as I do. If somebody mentioned something, I could say, I know what county you're in. And, but it was a labor of love, and I really have enjoyed doing it. I really have. And not being egotistical, but the feedback has been all positive. It really has. I mean, people tell me who are not turkey hunters, the landowners. He said, Bubba, I'm not a turkey hunter. But he said, the book reads exactly like you talk. And that's what I was trying to do. Because Julie, she said, Bubba, you can't do it this way. I said, Julie, that's the way I talk. And so she said, all right, but that's not proper grammar. I said, that's the way I talk. And when the guy said, Bubba, it reads exactly the way you talk. And I said, that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah. I like that. I like somebody being genuine. And, it kind of drives me crazy when I read a book and then meet the author and I'm like, yeah, that's not you.
Somebody wrote it for him. He had
Yeah.
Not a
A
pen
Ghost
pal.
Rider.
Ghost Rider. Yeah.
Yeah. But some people just try to write at a different level than how they speak. And to me, I think you should just give us who you are in the book.
Well, to me, a boy from Waldeboro named Bubba, Low Country of South Carolina, Waldeboro named Bubba. I don't think I'm going to impress anybody with my word usage and vocabulary usage. So I mean, it is what it is. So, I mean, I hope people enjoy it because I've really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
But I enjoy taking other people now. I really do, especially my grandchildren. They're 13, and my youngest grandson turns 10 today. Today's his birthday. He's in a camp in North Carolina, summer camp in North Carolina for a couple of weeks. So he got a nice bird this year with me, and my oldest grandson loves the turkey hunt. But it's a lot of fun. But when I was talking to, I was asked by Charles with DNR to speak before the Natural Resources House Committee members for the state. And then a couple of weeks later, I was asked to meet with the Senate Subcommittee on Natural Resources to speak about turkeys of decline in the population and such as that. And I'll never forget, there was a guy from Berkeley County, which is right outside of Charleston. He said, I own 20,000 acres and, we got a lot of birds, and if anybody kills a jake on my property, they're not invited back. And I think I was the last speaker for the the House Committee. And his name was Bobby. I won't mention his last name. But I got up and I said, well, Bobby's not going to like what I have to say. I said, in my opinion, shoot the jakes, let the breeding birds walk. And I said, my analogy is, like as a kid, I remember all the cowboy and Indian movies. They said, shoot the chief, because they'll withdraw until they decide on a new chief. To me, a flock of turkeys is like the Indian chiefs or the Indian tribes, or better yet, a wolf pack. You got an alpha male and an alpha female that do the breeding and all that. Turkey drove is the same thing. You got a dominant male and you got a dominant female. Let the birds breed, because a jake can't breed. I mean, the University of Georgia biologists or PhDs over there say a jake is not. So harvest the jakes. The more birds that can breed, the more nests you're going to have. The more nests that you have are going to be spread out. They're not subject to predation. And so therefore you may have a better success in hatching and greater pullet survivability. So therefore a dramatic increase in the turkey population. Well, I said the same thing to the Senate subcommittee, and I said, we don't need to open the season March the 15th. That is way too early. Yes, I know that you see turkeys out there strutting around in February in South Carolina. You'll see them in April. I mean, not May, in late May and June. I saw a bird strut a couple of weeks ago. I doubt the hen is receptive, but he's out there in full strut. But, February, March through early April, let the big birds breed. Don't shoot the big birds. And everybody wants to shoot a big bird. But after you take pictures of his beard and spurs, I mean, who really cares? And after you kill one big bird, why do you need to kill another big bird? That's my personal philosophy.
Well,
now, what do y'all think of that philosophy as turkey hunters?
Cameron?
Well, for me, I guess I would say, judging by most of the studies and everything I've read, I don't think it matters whether we shoot the big one, the young one, the oldest one, or the barely born male turkey. Everything I've read and studied shows that as long as you only take out 30% of your males or less, breeding is fine in the flock of turkeys. That seems to make sense to me. And then with the timing thing, that's kind of a big debate right now, I feel like, among turkey hunters. And it has, but the study they've done in Tennessee shows it doesn't matter as much timing wise, at least on our schedule, whether it's April 1st or April 15th, whether or not the turkeys are going to have more poults, it doesn't matter. Because, the hens can store the sperm for like a month, I think. If she got bred in February, she's good.
That's a misconception from what I've heard, and Charles Ruth can confirm with me. There's no storage of sperm in a turkey hen, from what he's confirmed with me.
I know.
But there's a finite breeding activity. Here, I think that the heights of our breeding activities may be the first week in April. probably a little later in Tennessee, and probably about the same for y'all in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just trying to, I may be totally wrong with that, but I just think, shoot one big bird, but I don't know how you would ever police that, enforce that. But that's just my philosophy.
I've always thought if you're hunting a property, and my rule for myself, if I go somewhere, I don't care if I hear 10 birds gobbling or 2 birds gobbling. If I kill one or whoever I'm with kills one, I'm not coming back there and killing another one. I don't want to kill 2 out of the same flock.
And I don't understand people who brag, yeah, I killed 2 birds with 1 shot. That ain't hard to do. But I said, then they come back 2 weeks later, and I didn't hear a bird gobble. Well, you may have heard that other bird you killed that morning you shot 2 of them. Yeah, he may have been gobbling this morning. I mean, that's just asinine to me. Why somebody wants to shoot 2 birds with 1 shot? Like I don't understand that mentality. And I understand it can happen accidentally. It happened to me, Breed Union County. I mean that ricochet, and I get ricochets. I think there's nothing you can do about it. But I told Charles Ruth. I read a magazine. I read the NWTF. It gave us statewide population and harvest results. I think it was 2023 maybe. And I was surprised at the overall population of turkeys in the mountain states. It seemed like Tennessee, North Carolina, Kentucky had turkeys in the millions, where we don't have turkeys in the millions. I was just surprised at the number of birds in the mountain states. The Blue Ridge Mountains. I don't know. I'm just talking about in the South, Tennessee, Kentucky, and North Carolina. I was just surprised at the number of birds in those respective states.
Yeah, I think y'all are projected to have like 84,000. North Carolina's, I'm just looking at it real quick, 270,000.
Yep. But look at Kentucky and Tennessee.
Let's see. And these are all estimates. I mean, how the heck do they even know?
I was about to say it's impossible to estimate a population in a forested state.
I get it. But
Kentucky says 400,000.
Yeah, but compared to ours, it just seems like, I understand South Carolina not as big as geographically, but I was surprised. It just seemed like the mountain states had a lot bigger population than we do.
Yeah. Well, we all definitely, at least I see it here. I'm in West Tennessee, and the swamp turkeys down in the bottoms, it is a boom bust with them. I mean, when you get the right conditions, man, they can go gangbusters for a year or 2. But then you get 2 big flood years in a row or something, and it's brutal. They'll be just nothing.
And I think, getting on that, I think when the pullets are hatching, I think the biggest detriment to pullets are when they get wet. If we get a lot of these, southeast afternoon rainstorms like we always get down here, I think the pullets get, the hen tries to protect. But I think when the pullets, when they're not feathered out, young, I think they succumb to being cold and chilled like that. I think that's caused a lot of mortality for the pullets, just the damp spring like that. In, say, late May or early June, I just think that's detrimental to them.
Like this year. I think it's going to be a really bad hatch this year in the southeast.
Well, we've had a lot of rain, and I asked Charles about that, and he said, "Well, I don't know, if that's a cause or not." I said, "Charles, this is a layman's perspective." I said, "When we had dry springs, it seemed like the turkey survivability, the pullet survivability, was a lot greater, than it has been when we have wet springs."
I totally agree.
And maybe if I get enough money, I'll get somebody to do the research on that posthumously, when Bubba's dead and gone. It says Bubba was right. Bubba, from the grave, you were right about the wet spring does cause more mortality in the pullets than we ever thought.
Oh, yeah. If it was up to me to pick the weather, I would have it be really wet here in March, because it seems like we get a much better green up, a lot more thickness on the ground type thing earlier in the spring if we have a good rain then, and then it just shut off dry as can be during nesting and poult rearing time. I think that combo right there puts a lot of poults on the ground, but that's all just Tennessee guy observationally seeing that happen.
You're seeing the same thing I see. I mean, I think a dry spring is much better for pullet survival than anything. And I don't think coyotes, I've seen turkeys run 2 coyotes off Bobcats are bad. I get bobcats, but I don't think coyotes of that. I don't think they're doing that much damage. But I think raccoons were down here. Nobody coon hunts anymore. And I think raccoons are a significant predator for turkey hatches at nests.
No
But,
doubt.
you know, I think a raccoon is probably one of the biggest culprits of nest destruction there is in South Carolina, especially from Columbia south towards the coast.
I think there's a lot of research showing that's a fact, and they're severely overpopulated.
But no one coon hunts anymore. I mean, I don't remember the last time I've heard of anybody buying a coon dog.
Well, and the ones that do, they usually just tree them, spotlight them, and count them and move on. They don't even shoot them.
Yeah.
But I think coon populations dramatically increased, and maybe put a bounty on coons with some of the money from the book. I don't know. I mean, whatever it takes to improve the habitat in the population is all I'm trying to do for them.
Absolutely.
I've had my fun.
That's the bottom line.
It's my time to give back. If I don't shoot another one, that's fine. I've had a great time with them.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. Well, Bubba, I sure appreciate you taking time to hop on here with us, and I can't tell you how impressed I am with your accomplishment. I mean, I've heard of people doing a lot of cool stuff with turkeys, but to do that in a state like South Carolina or any southeastern state just is an unbelievable feat, in my opinion. And I looked into it. There's 95 counties in Tennessee, so I got a pretty tall order ahead of me.
You better start now.
Yeah, I've got 11 downs. I got 84 to go.
Yeah, in a two-bird state, that's going to be quite the accomplishment.
I hope you better take care of yourself for a long life, my friend. Then.
Yeah, I may set my sights on something else. I'm gonna let you hold that crown.
Well, I appreciate y'all calling me, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed talking with y'all. And if y'all over this way, look me up.
Absolutely, we'll do it. And I greatly appreciate your time and sharing your stories with us. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. Thank y'all so much.
All right. Thank you,
Bubba.
Yeah. Goodbye. So that's an impressive accomplishment. I mean, it really is, because it takes so much coordination, even though your travels are not as far as they are obviously doing the U.S. Super Slam. Just coordinating a place in every county to go kill, and in the Southeast, where people are, they're selfish with their hunting, and their land.
Yes,
I just have to say that I don't know that there will be a whole lot of people who attempt to accomplish this to ever do it. And if you look at South Carolina, if they don't change their bag limit back, it might be impossible to do it.
Yeah, which I would say there's very minimal chance of the bag limit increases in the Southeast anytime soon.
Yeah. And you're talking about a state like Alabama where there's 67 counties and a 4-bird limit.
Yeah.
It would take you 17 years if you didn't have to go back to a county.
Is that in Alabama?
That's in Alabama.
Yeah. Tennessee, I said it on the show. It's an unbelievable amount. Yeah, I think we have 90-something counties.
Yeah, with a 2-bird limit.
So I've got big feet ahead of me to do it. I've gotten 13 or so counties knocked out, but I mean, I've just scratched the surface.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go after killing a turkey on every ranch in New Zealand that has turkeys. That'll be my goal. I'll do the New Zealand Slam.
I like it. I think I just want to go enjoy turkey hunting.
There's a lot to be said for that.
I'm going to finish out the Super Slam. Kind of thought I'd finish this year. Had some life things get thrown my way that slowed me down, and I really don't even care if I finish now. I'm going to, just because I'm like one hair close to it,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, why would I not? And I set the goal, and I've always been a person, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do everything I can to do it. So I've got to finish it. But after that, man, I'm just going to have fun turkey hunting. If I want to go hang out with you and turkey hunt, I'm going to go hang out with you and turkey hunt. If I want to go to Pennsylvania and hang out with a friend up there and turkey hunt, I'm going to go do it. Like, if I want to go sit somewhere by myself and turkey hunt, I'm just going to go do it. I'm going to go have fun.
Yeah. That's what it's all about anyway.
Yeah. the goal is fun. It is motivating to do things you've never tried. So I can't, and I've gone places I never would have gone, met places I never would have, or met people I never would have met.
Yep.
I have no complaints about doing it, but I'm also not going to be a sad man when it's over, and I just feel a freedom of turkey hunting again.
Yeah.
So anyway, an incredible feat by Bubba. What was the discussion you're wanting to have? I'm assuming it pertains to the Jakes versus adult gobblers.
It does. It does. And
Oh,
so
I guess that.
and that's an interesting topic. And, he asked what we thought about that, and I deferred the answer to Cameron. And I think Cameron was very judicious with his answer. And, of course, we would never be anything but that with any guest that comes on the show or anyone that we have a discussion with about things turkey hunting related. We may be passionate about our views on certain things, and a lot of time Cameron's views and my views, they don't match.
Yeah.
And we could still be passionate about how we feel about it, but respectful. And so, I thought, Cameron, I know your feelings about what he said about shooting only Jakes is opposite of the way he feels or what he presented. And so, I felt you were still very respectful about that. And so, my thought is that if we shot only Jakes in about 5 to 8 years, we would have no turkeys to kill, no male turkeys to kill, because there are only so many breeding turkeys out there. They're going to die of old age. I'm just going to go out on a limb because I've done it so many times and say that I feel like I could fool the same Jake day in, day out, day after day for a week before that Jake got to the point to where he was like, yep, not going over there to where that hen's calling.
Yeah.
So
had several days where you kind of call in like the same gaggle of Jakes, like all day long. You feel like they're chasing you around.
yeah, absolutely. I had that happen on an Osceola hunt in Florida.
Yeah.
And
like, oh gosh, here they come again.
Yeah. And, hunting 4,000 acres. I don't know how many miles it is from one end of that ranch to the other, but here they come again. You're hunting this part of the ranch in the morning, and here they come. You go to the other end of the ranch in the afternoon because you're thinking, hey, these Jakes are running the toms crazy around here. And you go down to the other end, and here comes a flock of 16 Jakes, just like you had 16 Jakes on the other end of the ranch in the morning.
Yeah.
So are there 2 flocks of 16 Jakes? Yeah, there's a possibility. But do I think it's the same flock? Yeah, I think that's a really good possibility. So, yeah. And you could mow them down. So,
yeah, I didn't really want to go into like the discussion of like, because who knows? Maybe it doesn't matter. I think the whole thing is, to me, it makes perfectly good sense. And Bill Healy was the first to say it in his studies, and it seems logical to me. And I like when things seem logical. If you only kill 3 out of the 10 male turkeys you have, you'll never lack for having male turkeys.
mm-hmm.
Pretty good rule. I don't care which age class they're in. All 4-year-olds, all 3-year-olds, all 2-year-olds, all Jakes, or some mixture of the 4. If you have 10 male turkeys and you kill 3 of them, you should be good next year. And if you do that every year, you're probably not going to run out of male turkeys.
Yeah.
Because if you're using a percentage, it ebbs and flows with how your population goes. So you have 21 year, you can kill 6.
Mm-hmm.
You have 5, you maybe only kill 1. If you kill 2, you're starting to get in there, So
yeah.
I think that's a way to look at it. For me, that's how I look at it. I try to get a census of like how many males I think I have on the property this year. Here's what we're going to do. We have one farm that we baby. It's not a big farm. Usually has a great amount of turkeys on it, but it's not very much acreage. We almost always only kill 1 turkey off of it. But 2 years ago, I saw the winter flock of gobblers and the Jakes. It was very logical that we could kill 2 that year.
Yeah.
And we did. And it didn't affect anything because it was like, man, we had a boom. Well, we'll reap a better harvest this year, Why not?
Right.
And then there's other years where you go to your farm and you're like, man, it's hard to hear a turkey gobble. Should I even kill one?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. To me, that rule makes a lot of sense, and I don't, it's this age class thing because there's two sides of the coin. Like he just said, just shoot the jakes, which that's new. I've really not heard that side of it often or at all. But then there's the other side that says, don't shoot the. And I used to think this was the gospel of, don't shoot your dominant breeding gobbler. He's responsible for everything. If you kill him, which is kind of what he was saying. But to me, the research that's coming out right now doesn't show that that's true either. Like,
Yeah.
Most clutches and most hens have been bred by multiple gobblers, and the clutch she's sitting on has multiple fathers.
Yep.
That's in the peer-reviewed science right now.
Yeah.
So what does that tell us? Like, there's not one gobbler in the whole 1,000 acres that's breeding everybody,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. To me, I think any game bird species or basically anything you're hunting, if you take a few and leave a lot, you won't lack for opportunity to hunt that animal. If you take a lot and leave a few, all of a sudden you're going to be hurting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's that logic that you presented just then makes total sense, because if you really want to have a great population of turkeys, then just don't kill any. Take your video camera, take your still camera, go video, go take pictures, and don't shoot any. You should have a phenomenal population of turkeys after several years. So what people listening to this show, most of us want to kill at least one turkey a season, and many of us want to kill several a season, and that's one of the reasons why we travel. So how can you take that philosophy of I'm not going to shoot any turkeys so I can have a great population and change it a little bit so it suits our needs, our wants, our desires of killing a turkey or a few? And the way you do that is to kill a limited number so that there is a next year that's worth going out to the woods to try to hunt. So what you're saying makes total sense to me. And, if someone out there has some evidence or even an opinion to the contrary, and you can say, we've heard 10 turkeys gobble on our 1,000 acres every year, and we've killed 10 every year, and we just keep getting 10 and keep getting 10 and keep getting 10, and this has happened for 20 years, we'd love to hear from you. If you think, hey, it's okay for us to kill every Jake that we see, or only Jakes, we'd love to hear that too. So that's the favor of the week. Hit us up on social media, email us, Cameron.Weddington@gmail.com, Andy@IamTurkeyHunting.com. I think you guys know how to find us on social media, and let us know your thoughts.
Yeah. The first scenario you gave, I kind of chuckled because we've talked about it before. What I normally hear is, man, last year I had 3 gobblers on my property and we killed them all. This year I don't have any turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you just answered your own question, man. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You'd killed 1. You'd have 2 to hunt this year. They don't hardly die in the off season. They don't. The adult gobblers don't hardly get killed.
Yeah. Mature adult toms rarely get killed by predators. They do. It does happen, but it's not very common. Jakes, on the other hand, it seems like it was Dr. Chamberlain who came on the show one time and mentioned a percentage of the Jakes that survive even in states that don't allow the harvest of Jakes, and it was they survived from year 1 to year 2. And it was something like, and I know I'm not going to be right with this, but it seems like it was something like 70% of them make it.
Yeah, it's still a high percentage.
Still pretty
but
good.
It's not. Yeah. Which it makes total sense. They get better at not getting killed the longer they're on Earth.
Yes,
we all know that. Better at avoiding humans, and other animals, I'm sure.
Yeah, think about how many of our teenage boys would survive if they didn't have a household of parents.
Yeah, I'd be gone.
A parent. There's no way I would have made it. I'd been like 13 and a day.
Yeah. You're the first one gone. You're the 2-year-old on opening day on public land.
You better believe it. Yeah. Or the Jake in Tennessee.
Yeah, Jake. That's right. Oh man.
So anyway, interesting thought, and here's the thing. We're all entitled to our opinions, and I'm no biologist, and maybe Bubba's got a point that would work. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
I don't know.
That definitely has not been studied in any way. I've not ever seen a study where they only shot jakes on a property to see how it affected things.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I can't tell him wouldn't work because nobody knows. But
yeah.
I kind of follow what those parameters I said is kind of my hard and fast rule. And I feel like if I never violate that, I'm never going to like to have turkeys to hunt the next year.
I think so much of the fun of what we do for hobbies, whether it's watching sports or participating in sports or participating in hunting, whatever it might be, so much of the fun of it is being an armchair, whatever it is, armchair quarterback, an armchair pitcher, an armchair turkey hunter, an armchair biologist. And we can speculate all day long until somebody does that study to prove us wrong. There's a decent chance we're not wrong until somebody can prove us wrong. So
would love to see the look on the face of the state agency when the biologist is trying to be funded. They're like, now my plan is for us to just shoot all the jakes on this property.
Well, if there were not any turkey hunters on that group, on that committee, and there's a lot of committees out there that don't have any turkey hunters.
Yeah, that's true.
They would be like, okay,
that sounds great.
Let's do
it. Can I volunteer to participate also?
So anyway, reach out to us. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, always do. Why don't you wrap us up?
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. We know that you have choices. We appreciate you spending your time with us. We hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.